Hello everyone, it's Maki. Today, we'll analyze some of the technology that exists in the Universal Century world. Specifically, we'll take a look at beam sabers and heat weapons. These weapons operate on different principles. However, in the story, there are scenes in which a Heat Hawk and a Beam Saber blade collide. A Beam Saber is not a metal blade, but a weapon that generates an energy blade. It seems strange that it would make contact with a high-temperature metal weapon like a Heat Hawk and stop its movement. What mechanism causes this phenomenon? We'll also examine scenes from the original 0079 story that are easy to misunderstand. If you'd like, please consider supporting my channel by joining the 99-cent monthly membership. As a thank you, you'll receive a name badge and comment stamps. Now, let's begin the analysis. The most famous heat-type weapon is probably the Heat Hawk. It is the standard weapon of the Zoku, the mass-produced mobile suit of the Principality of Zeon forces. The Heat Hawk supplies energy to the blade section and generates extreme heat. This energy comes from a thermonuclear reactor with extremely high output. However, compared to a Beam Saber, the Heat Hawk is often considered a weaker weapon. In fact, even the official Encyclopedia Gundam officials describes its power as poor compared to a Beam Saber. However, this only means that its output is lower than that of a Beam Saber. As a weapon, it still possesses extremely high attack power. There are scenes in which a Heat Hawk damages the Gundam's armor and shield. These are manufactured from Lunar Titanium alloy. This metal is later called Gundarium alloy. Gundarium alloy is one of the strongest materials in the Universal Century. After improvements were made, it was used for a long time as a structural material for mobile suits. When the Heat Hawk was first completed, its ability to damage Gundarium alloy made it the strongest weapon. It had astonishing destructive power that conventional armor could not withstand. Now let's address the question, why do the blades of a Heat Hawk and the Beam Saber collide? As I mentioned earlier, a thermonuclear reactor supplies energy to the blade of a heat weapon. The intense heat generated by this electrical power produces plasma energy on the blade's surface. This plasma energy creates a repulsive effect against the force field that forms a Beam Saber. So, what forms the force field of a Beam Saber? It is the eye field. It is well known for being used as a defensive field against beam weapons. A Beam Saber shapes high-output Minovsky particles into a blade using an eye field. This eye field exhibits properties toward other eye fields and electromagnetic forces as if it were physical matter. This is why the blades of Beam Sabers and heat weapons can meet. However, this theory is slightly misunderstood. In reality, the eye field and the plasma energy repel each other. Strictly speaking, therefore, the Beam Saber and the heat weapon are not actually touching. The two blades are repelling each other at close range. This is the same phenomenon that occurs when magnets with the same polarity are brought close together and repel each other. In this sense, it is accurate to say that the blades of a Beam Saber and a heat weapon never truly collide. Now, let's take a look at a scene from the original 0079 that is often misunderstood by viewers. It is the battle between the Gundam and the Dom. It's the famous scene where Ammo Ray battles the formidable Black Tri-Stars. During the battle, the Dom activates the diffusion beam cannon in its chest. Ammo is shaken by this attack. Some interpretations claim that this attack has a blinding effect due to the intense light of the beam. Some materials describe the dome's beam cannon as underdeveloped with insufficient output for direct attacks, so it is used as a blinding device. However, the Gundam official's book I mentioned earlier offers a different explanation. As I explained earlier, Beam Sabers use a night field. If the output of the eye field is increased, a Beam Saber can maintain its shape underwater. However, increasing the output places a heavy load on the eye field generator. If forming the eye field becomes difficult, the Beam Saber's safety device activates. This safety system stops the emission of Minovsky particles. According to Gundam officials, the dome's chest beam cannon was designed to be used against beam weapons. If this weapon is used against the Beam Saber at extremely close range, the eye field loses its ability to form properly. Consequently, the Gundam's Beam Saber stops functioning. Anmo did not panic when he lost his vision from a blinding flash. He panicked because his Beam Saber had been disabled while an enemy was right in front of him. There is a similar example in 0083. In one scene, the Gundam GP02 piloted by Anavel Gato releases the limiter on its Beam Saber. This scene is often interpreted as Gato releasing the limiter to win a crush against the enemy's Beam Saber with a higher output Beam Saber. Gundam officials also describes this tactic. The goal is to overload the eye field generator of the enemy's GP01 Gundam and wear down its Beam Saber. However, releasing the limiter also places a heavy load on the Beam Saber that Gato is using. Gato judged that the enemy's Beam Saber would be damaged sooner than his own. Gato was not just an ace pilot with excellent skills, he also had a deep understanding of the weapons equipped on the Gundam. He fully understood the characteristics of the weapons equipped on the Gundam. He also accurately inferred the characteristics of the weapons on the Gundam GP01, which was the same model. Understanding the characteristics of the weapons can provide a whole new perspective on the story. Thank you for watching until the end. See you again in the next program.